Hare Krishna, glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda, glories to the Prabhupada Disciples Association members and the Hare Krishna Society and its membership. And we want to welcome everyone. We have a good crowd already at 10 o'clock, 17 people. It takes time every day to get to the program, I know that. So we appreciate your promptness, because the human form of life is a very blessed situation for the spirit soul. We look at the world that we're in, there are 8,400,000 different species of life, all with spirit soul. And out of the aquatics and the four-legged beasts and the insects and the plants, the human beings are the highest form of life on this planet, and they have the greatest opportunity of any of the other species who cannot gain any spiritual understanding because of the karmic situation they're in. But the human being is capable of great things. And the greatest thing is to understand that we are, with the use of our intelligence, our mind, all our faculties, in the association of an enlightened soul, we can understand that we are the eternal servants of Krishna, incarcerated in this body. Of course, that sounds very poetic in a way, but the fact is, this is a reality that we're dealing with, and we're subjected to all kinds of difficulties while you're resting in this body. And the mind of all the senses, the central focal point of the conditioned soul, is always disturbed, always upset, because this is the nature of material life. And mental illness is one of the biggest problems that faces modern society, this mental instability. Especially in America and in Canada, the people resort to drugs. So drug addiction is a very serious problem. And for some reason, people take high-powered drugs, like this new drug called fentanyl. And it's killing people constantly. They're looking for relief from their miserable state of existence. And instead of trying to understand through the scriptures how to solve these mental problems, they resort to drugs. And as a result, society is always disturbed. This is the situation. The pharmaceutical industry, I have a Bhaktin Kauri that comes to the ashram here. She's learning, and she's a pharmacist. She works in the pharmaceutical industry. She had a very, very prolific, successful pharmacy here in the city. They were selling tens of millions of dollars of drugs a year. People are completely habituated to taking pharmaceutical drugs. And guess what? They're legal. They're legal by the standards of the government. That's how insane things are. And people think, oh, I'll have mental stability and mental health by taking drugs. So we have 4 regulated principles. And one of them is no intoxications, no alcohol, and no drugs. And we can't think that just because a doctor prescribed it, you should take it. These things are very potent items that people take. I have to say this, I've never taken any, so I don't know how strong they are. But I can well imagine that they're extremely potent. And here we have a bhakta here. He's on a pharmaceutical program, and they inject him, Yaśodā, with a big, huge needle every 3 weeks. And it makes him basically catatonic for 12 days. It's very unfortunate. And then he starts to stabilize, and his face, his aura starts to return, and he's like a regular human being. So we're trying to get him to chant and take prasadam and somehow or other elevate himself out of this entanglement. So the material world is a difficult place for the conditioned soul, and we're very fortunate that we have the association of a pure devotee of Krishna who is teaching us through the process of bhakti yoga how to rise up out of the animal condition, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending. This is the business of the animal. And when one is a mudha, such mudha is not capable of understanding God. It's not possible. You have to be qualified. We discussed this yesterday in our Bhagavad Gita class, that spiritual transcendental knowledge is possible if one is properly trained to hear and chant about the Supreme Lord from a pure devotee who reveals this knowledge to the conditioned soul. I was listening to a lecture yesterday. Prabhupada was saying that this is not an academic process. It happens by revelation. Well, how do you become advanced, Vijaya Pandit? You have to practice. There's a saying, when opportunity meets preparation, there's success. So the opportunity to get out of the material world comes by the blessings of the pure devotee, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. And through proper preparation, one is able to be successful in the human form of life by serving him. It's not academic. It's a motion of internal service. Some people are enamored by intellectual study. They think, oh, this person knows this and that, and all kinds of verses and this and that. It's not about that. It is about your commitment to A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda that makes the difference. Now, someone could say, well, how do you know that? Well, try practicing it and find out for yourself. That's as simple as it is. Krishna says, I, dwelling within the heart, destroy with the shining lamp of knowledge the darkness born of ignorance. And that knowledge comes through the mercy of the pure devotee. When Krishna sees you serving Prabhupada, then he understands you're sincere, and he will reveal to you this process of Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada was a perfect example of that. And when he came from India, he demonstrated it in his journey to America on the Jaladuta, his complete selfless surrender. And we're going to go forward here, and we're going to read from the Jaladuta diaries. Here we are. Here we go. There's my copy from Brahmananda and his brother Gargamuni. So we'll read on here. We're reading a letter that Prabhupada has sent to Sumati Maharajji. And he's explaining to her what happened. Remember, she was very reluctant to give him passage. She thought, oh, you're not really going to achieve. You're probably going to get sick. There'll be problems. Don't do it. But he persuaded her to give him passage. And then now he's writing her back to tell her how he's making out. So we read the first part of the letter, and he's telling about the Americans, how he's finding them that they're somewhat receptive. The Bhagavad cult is preached also through the art of music and dance, as it was done by Lord Chaitanya. I'm just thinking of introducing the very same system for my Bhagavatam preaching, but I have no means. The Christian missionary people are backed by huge resources, and they preach the Christian cult all over the world. Similarly, the devotees of Lord Krishna may also combine together to start the mission of preaching Bhagavatam cult all over the world. It is not for serving any political purpose, but it is necessary to preach cult for saving the people in general from the dangerous tendency of godlessness. The Christian cult or any other cult cannot save the people from being under the clutches of the growing communism, but the Bhagavatam cult can save them because of its philosophical and scientific approach. I am therefore thinking of bringing a Sankirtan party from India, but I do not know how to do it unless there is an organized party or association. It is very difficult to do it. The Ramakrishna mission here is busy in preaching a misrepresentation, and therefore practically they have failed to preach the real cult of India. Now remember, the term cult took on a negative connotation after the fiasco with Jim Jones. So the use of this term is not negative from this point of view. It's a group of people with a system of beliefs. But the cultism movement started in the 70s. We won't talk about that, but I have direct experience with it. The so-called yogis also could not establish the real cult of Bhagavad Gita. They are after material gains. The Bhagavad cult is not at all, although it is the only remedy for raising the people in the world in the path of self-realization and spiritual salvation. I do not know what is the mind of Lord Balakrishna, but I think that your attention to give an impetus to the Bhagavad cult and my humble attempt can serve great purpose. By the grace of the Lord, you have a great position in the world. And it is learnt that you are one of the richest women in the world. But above all of you are a pious lady, but above all, you are a pious lady with great devotion for Lord Balakrishna, and you can do a lot in this connection. She did, and she did do a lot. She got the blessings of Lord Krishna by providing this service to Śrīla Prabhupāda. This is no small feat. By the grace of Lord Balakrishna, you are also free from all family encumbrances. And as I've seen in your Palm Band house, you live like a sage and a tapaswini. I wish that you may take up this idea of Bhagavatam preaching work a little more seriously. So he's pushing. What I want that immediately a society for this purpose may be formed, and that will be recognized by the government for cultural activity. So many cultural missions come here from India at the expense of government, and they simply waste the money. But if there is a real cultural mission for preaching the Bhagavatam cult, a great philanthropic work will be done for the human society at large. So this is the real welfare work Prabhupada's referring to. Not opening hospitals. No. I'm just giving you the idea, and if you kindly think over the matter seriously and consult your beloved Lord Balakrishna, surely you will be further enlightened in the matter. There is a scope and there is also necessity also. There is a scope and there's necessity also. And it is the duty of every Indian, especially the devotees of Lord Krishna, to take up this matter. I shall be glad to hear from you about my humble suggestions per return of mail. Hoping you are well, with my best regards, I am yours sincerely, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Note to Bena. I'm very glad to note the last line of your letter under reply, in which you write to say, I feel that if you should stay there till you fully recover from your illness and return only after you've completed your mission. Yes, I wish to stay here for all the days till I finish the mission of life to preach a Bhagavad cult. Very rightly, and for this very reason only, I've suggested the above means and ways. If you kindly cooperate in forming a society for this purpose, with your great influence, surely all Indians will combine, and thus we can fulfill the mission. Very nicely, declaring the glories of India. Please do it for the Lord's sake. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda in his early days of preaching the Sankirtan movement in North America. We'll have the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, and then the class Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam with His Grace from Twain Harte, California, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, who's up in the mountains in the cold, icy weather. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda.
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Yaśodā-nandana Brajajana Ranjana Jamuna Tira Banachari Jamuna Tira Banachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunda Bihari. Jai Amaspat Paramahansa Parīkṣit Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam Saraswati Goswami Prabhupāda ki Jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava ki Jai. Ramacharya Śrīla Haridas Thakur ki Jai. Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivāsadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki Jai. Shri Radha Krishna Mokh Gopinath Sam Khund Radha Khund Girivardhan ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham ki Jai. Navadvip Dham ki Jai. Ganga Mai की जाए, जमुना माई की जाए, गुरु द्वारका धाम की जाए, स्वामी तो भक्तविंद की जाए. All glories to the Assembly. All glories to the Assembly. Thank you very much.
All glories to you, Śrīla Prabhupāda. Glories to you, Prabhupada. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. O my Lord, Sri Krishna, the son of Vasudeva, the all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. Narayanam namaskrityam, Narayanam namaskrityam, Naram cheva narottamam, Naram cheva narottamam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Devim saraswatim vyasam, Tato jayam mudirayat, Tato jayam mudirayat. One should utter the means of conquest, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, after offering respectful obeisances, 1, to the personality of Godhead Narayana, 2, to the Nara-Narayana Rishi, who is the supermost human being, 3, to the Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, then 4, to Śrīla Vyasadeva, the author, from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam 1-4. Welcome everyone to this reading and discussion on Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam or Bhagavat Purana. Today, we will, as every week, we will be reading a few verses from the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 2, from Text 17, a few verses explaining the benefit and greatness of hearing this powerful transcendental literature. We are reading from Canto 1, Chapter 2, text number 17. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam svakata Krishna punya shravana kirtana ridyantastoya bhadrani vidhunoti surit satam. Sri Krishna, the personality of Godhead, who is also the Paramatma in everyone's heart and the benefactor of the truthful devotee, thus cleanse the desire for material enjoyment in the heart of the devotee who has developed the urge for hearing his, Krishna's messages, which are themselves virtuous when properly heard and chanted. Text number 18. Nashta prayeshu vabhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevayam bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in the Bhagavatam class or rendering service unto the pure devotees, all that is inauspicious in the heart of a candidate becomes destroyed almost to nil, and thus loving service unto the personality of Godhead, who is praised with transcendental songs, comes into being an irrevocable fact. Tadarajastamo bhava kamalo bhadayaschaye cheta eterana viddam stitam sattve prasidati. As soon as irrevocable loving service is fixed up in one's heart, at that time the effects of the nature's mode of passion and ignorance, such as lust, desire and anchorings, etc., do disappear from one's heart, and he becomes fixed up in the mode of goodness, which makes him completely happy. Text number 20. Evam prasanna manaso bhagavad bhakti yogataha bhagavat tattva vijnanam mukta sangasya jayate. Thus, when one is positively fixed up in the mode of unalloyed goodness, the enlivened-minded man affected by contact of devotional service of the Lord can positively know scientific knowledge of the personality of Godhead in the stage of liberation from all material association. Text number 21. No. Vidyate hridaya grantish chidante sarva samshayaha kshiyante chasya karmani drishta evatmanishwari. The knot of one's heart is thus pierced, and all misgivings are cut into pieces. The chain of fruitive actions are terminated, along with the seeing of oneself, the dominating factor. Again, everyone, welcome to this reading of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. Today we will be reading from Canto 1, Chapter 4, text number 10 and 11. All English synonyms, translations, and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Founder-Ācārya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness, also known as the Krishna Consciousness Movement. Sasamrat kasyava hetoho bandhunam manavardhanaham prayopavishtu gangayam manadritya dhirachriyam. Sa he, Samrat, the emperor, Kasya, for what? Hetoho, reason. Pandunam, of the sons of Pandu. Manavardhana, one who enriches the family. Prayopavishta, sitting and fasting. Gangayam, on the bank of the Ganges. Anadritya, neglecting. Dhiraha, acquired kingdom. Shriyam, opulences. He was a great emperor and had the opulences of acquired kingdom. As also he was so exalted that he was increasing the prestige of the Pandu dynasty. What was the reason that he gave up everything and sat down on the bank of the Ganges fasting till death? Purport. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was the emperor of the world with all the seas and oceans, and he had not got to take the trouble of acquiring such kingdom by his own effort. He acquired such vast kingdom inherited from his grandfathers, Mahārāja Yudhishthira and brothers. Besides that, he was doing well in the administration worth the good name of his forefathers, and as such there was nothing undesirable in the matter of his opulence and administration. Then why should he untimely give up all these favorable circumstances and sit down on the bank of the Ganges fasting till death. This is astonishing, and therefore they were eager to know the cause. Text number 11. Namani yatpadaniketam atmanah Shivaya niyadhanani shatravaha Katam sabhira shriyamanga dustyajam Yuveva uchrashtum ahosah asubihi. Namanti, bow down, yatpada, whose feet, nekatam, under, atmanaha, own, shivaya, welfare, haniya, used to bring about, dhanani, wealth, shatravaha, enemies, katam, for what reason, sa, he, viraha, the chivalrous, shriyam, opulences, anga, dustyajam, inseparable, yuva, just in full youth, eshat, desired, utsrashtum, for given up, aho, exclamation, saha, with, asuvihi, life. Translation: he was such an emperor that all his enemies would come and bow down at his feet, surrendering all wealth for their own benefit. He was in full youthful time. He was full of strength and possessed inseparable kingly opulences. What was the reason that he desired to give up everything, including his life? Purport: nothing undesirable in his life means that he was quite a young man who could enjoy life with power and opulence. So there was no question of retiring from active life. There was no difficulty in collecting the state taxes because he was so powerful and chivalrous that even his enemies would come to him to bow down at his feet and surrender all wealth for their own benefit. Mahārāja Parīkṣit was pious king and conquered his enemies, and as such the kingdom was full of prosperity. There was enough milk, grains, metals, and all the rivers and mountains were full of potency. So there was nothing against even from the side of the material nature. Therefore, there was no question of giving up some prospective kingdom and give up life untimely. They were eager to hear about all these. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnanan Janashalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Namaum Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Śrīmate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatehi Visheshataham Adadana-strinam danter idam yache punaha punaha Śrīmad-Rūpa-padam bhoja dhulisyam janma janmani Amsho bhagavatosmyaham sadadaso asmi sarvatam tat kripa pikshako nityam tat prishta shadkaromi svam Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. The question is sometimes raised, if Vedic culture, such as we read in the Bhagavatam, was spread everywhere, why is it that we do not find archaeological remains of this great civilization? Well, there are archaeological remains. The city of the Pandavas, Indraprastha, is still there in Delhi. The Hastinapur, the kingdom of the Kurus, is still there, northeast of Delhi. And there are numerous, near Kurukshetra, numerous archaeological finds have been discovered. I'm assuming that some of you are familiar with the archaeological finds in Ayodhya, the birthplace of Lord Rama, where they found many of the original temples, many very old Vedic temples and deities that were found in the side of a mosque or former mosque. What is very interesting in places like Cambodia, Indonesia, Malaysia, and even as far as Japan, they have found all kinds of Vedic deities. For example, in Nagoya, Japan, they found a very large Shiva Linga. In Nara, Japan, when we were in Japan, we went to visit a very big Buddhist temple and brought some books to distribute. And we happened to go to a gift shop where they were selling different little postcards and mementos. And Guru Kripa Swami pointed out, hey, look at that picture. There was a postcard of Krishna playing on his flute, somewhat of a Japanese style, but it was definitely Krishna. How did it get there? How did Japanese culture ended up with Vedic deities and images of Krishna? And not only that, but it's well known, those who are historians and expert in Japanese culture, there are many, many Vedic deities that are represented in Japanese culture. Now, somebody may say, well, what's the importance? Well, the importance of that proves that Vedic culture was spread all over the world. It's as simple as that. It's not very complicated. In Japanese, there is a deity called Bonten, B-O-N-T-E-N. That is a deity of Lord Brahma with 4 heads. There is also a deity of Lord Vishnu. They call him Narayan Ten Kongo Rikish. He looks just like Lord Vishnu, flying on top of Garuda. Everybody is familiar with the story of Gajendra. Gajendra was a very powerful elephant who had been attacked by a crocodile, and Lord Vishnu came to save him, flying on the back of Garuda. So in Japan, they have a deity that looks exactly like Lord Vishnu on top of Garuda. Very impressive. Other deities, such as Goddess Lakshmi, is called Kichi Joten. Now, somebody may say, well, that may be an accident. No, it is not an accident. This is the arrangement that Vedic culture by various Vaishnava kings was spread all over the world. Some of you might be familiar how in Cambodia there's a very large temple called Angkor Wat that used to be a Vishnu temple before one of the kings converted to Buddhism. And there are so many different sculptures of Vedic deities, of Vaishnava deities. So this is the influence originally of great kings like Mahārāja Yudhishthira, the Pandavas, and their descendants. Now, what has happened in India is that after the Mahabharata, there were subsequent invasions of various outsiders, Mlechas and Yavanas, people from different countries, Afghanistan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, so many places, who came and invaded India. And they tried to force their culture by destroying much of the very great temples and civilization. We once were on a morning walk with Śrīla Prabhupāda in Vrindavan, and Śrīla Prabhupāda was asked, why is it that in India there has been so many invasions from different European countries like the British, the French, the Portuguese? There has been so many different other cultures who came and attacked the civilization and culture of India. But we see that even today, many people are still following the culture. The women are wearing saris. Many people are wearing dhotis. We see they're still worshiping in the temples. There are so many deities. So why is it that this is still going? Because usually when another nation conquers another country, within a decade or two, the whole culture is lost. But Prabhupada's reply is because this culture, Sanatana Dharma, is eternal. It cannot be destroyed. So this is a very important point, because we hear in different Prabhupada's lectures about a special golden age of the golden age of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu for 10,000 years from the appearance of Lord Chaitanya. In order to make that golden age happen, it means that the followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, especially the followers and students and disciples of Śrīla Prabhupada, must actively preach his instructions and his commands. Somebody recently asked me, it seems that you and Vishwakarma keep spending a little bit more time every time you have a class on this diary situation. Why is that? Well, because it's important. To hear about the activities of pure devotees and great acharyas is just as important as hearing about Krishna. How many times did Śrīla Prabhupada talk about great devotees like Mahārāja Ambarish, Prahlad Maharaj, the associates of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu? But here in this Bhagavatam, what we're concerned about is the exalted position of Mahārāja Yudhishthira, and here we have Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Because Prabhupada mentions in one of the books that generally the historians and archaeologists, they trace the history of this world about 3,000, 3,500 years. They don't go beyond that. They don't have much knowledge of anything beyond that. But the Bhagavatam tells us very clearly what was the position before that. And here we have the exalted position of Mahārāja Parīkṣit. Because after the Kurukshetra war, there were still some survivors, such as Mahārāja Parīkṣit, who reestablished the pious kingdom. That was the whole purpose of the war. Sometimes misinformed persons or persons with a poor fund of knowledge will criticize, why is it that there should be so much violence in the Mahabharata and in the Bhagavad Gita. Without understanding the historical background of the war, how can one make that statement? The war was necessary to reestablish the position of the Pandavas, who had been deprived of their kingdoms by the conspiracies of the Kurus, Duryodhana, Dushasana, and so many others. It was the desire of Krishna that there should be a Dharmaraj, a pious king, to reestablish the principle of Dharma. There are so many stories in the Mahabharata, so many interesting stories that led to the actual Mahabharata war. Sometimes people are fascinated by UFOs, unidentified flying objects. Whenever they hear of that or life in other planets, they're captivated. They want to know. Some people in America have even tried to launch lawsuits against the government to reveal their files on UFOs. Well, the information is available, but not in the government files. It's available in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, in the Mahabharata, in the Ramayana. These literatures give all information. What are the living beings in higher planets? What are the real UFOs? What is the real cause of these so-called phenomena that are not explicable by normal sense perception? We see in the Mahabharata that so many great personalities in higher planets. Now, it's important at this point to make a distinction between the modern scientific method of verifying everything through sense perception, whereas the Vedic method, there's two methods, Aroha Panta and Avaroha Panta. One is direct sense perception, such as practiced by modern scholars and scientists, and the other one is hearing from authorities, Vedic authorities, great acharyas, great personalities, great sages in disciplic succession. Then one can understand. We see in the Chandogya Upanishad, there's a Sanskrit line, Acharya Van Purusho Veda, that one who has taken shelter of the bona fide authorized Acharya, he will know everything. So in order to understand these phenomena of life in other planets, different living beings, all of these things, one has to hear from proper authority. If one tries to verify everything by his senses, that is not possible. It does not work that way. Because each living being, especially human being, is conditioned by his past karma, past activities in a past life. That's why we get a specific body, born in a specific place, with a specific family, with a specific set of senses, and one is conditioned with that. You cannot avoid that. The foolish idea that everything happens by chance, that is complete nonsense. The very same people who are espousing these ideas, did they get their degrees and their education by chance? Did they get their master's degrees and PhDs in education by chance? It just dropped from the sky? No. There's a cause behind everything. Everything is a cause. And the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is a very accurate description, just like in the 5th canto of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. It describes what is the situation in the bottom part of the universe, the upper part of the universe, the living beings that stay there, what they are doing, their life, Prabhupada describes how the demigods enjoy life for thousands upon thousands of years. Brahma, the chief engineer of the universe, who is Krishna's agent for the creation of this material world, lives for 300 trillion years. 311 trillion years. People will say, oh, this is all mythology. We can't prove that. No, you can't prove that, but you can hear that. You can find out from Bhagavad Gita. Sahasra yuga paryantam maharyat brahmano viduhu. That 1,000 cycle of the Chatur Yugas, of the 4 Yugas, Kali Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Satya Yuga. That is 4,320,000 years. Multiplied by 1,000, that is 1 day of Lord Brahma. Within that 1 day of Lord Brahma, there are 14 Manus. And in this way, there is a cycle, a repeating cycle of creation, maintenance, and dissolution. And those living beings in higher planets, the demigods, the great sages, these come by the arrangement of Krishna for the orderly maintenance of the universe. Just like if you have a government, it is not that there is a prime minister or a president and nobody else. There's all kinds of people in the administration of the government. You'll have ministers for the economy, ministers for the post office, minister for tourism, minister for the army. So many different departments to make everything run properly. So similarly, in this universe, there are so many personalities. And these personalities have much more power than we do. Just like in the Bhagavatam, it is described that the demigods can go from one planet to another at will by mystic power. Imagine on this planet, you're trying to go from California to Europe or South America. Oh, you got to go to the airport and go to all the verification and TSA and wait in line and so many hassles, so many complications. And there's all the risk, all the potential problems. Just like recently in Japan, they had an airline accident. Some Coast Guard airplane hit some other airplane and there was a big fire. A few people lost their lives. But the demigods have no such accidents. They can fly from one planet to another. Very, very important to note, because we see that when the Bhagavatam was announced, it was well known that this great emperor, this great king, Mahārāja Parīkṣit, was going to depart his body and fast for 7 days. Literally, the news went like wildfire all over the planet, all over the universe, not just on this planet, in higher planets, and all kinds of great sages, demigods, rishis, sadhus, saintly persons, they all assembled. They came to this planet from the higher planet to hear the message of Bhagavatam from that great personality, Shukadeva Goswami. Well, we'll leave it at that for now. And I just wanted to make a brief announcement. Next weekend, next Sunday, we're having a special event in Sacramento, California for the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami. This will start at about 10:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Sunday, January 14th. And the following Friday, we're going to have a special event from Tokyo, Japan, with some very nice devotees over there. And we're going to be discussing very interesting topics like what we discussed today. So we invite everybody to participate. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Harimo, thank you very much. Very illuminating explanation of the verse. And verse 10 and 11 today in the reading posed the same question. What was the reason that Mahārāja Parīkṣit gave up everything and sat down on the bank of the Ganges fasting till death? And in the next text 11, What was the reason that he desired to give up everything, including his life? Which is the real question for every human being, is why would you give up everything and at the time that you're going to die? Because this world is an illusion, and the Bhagavatam and Bhagavad Gita were spoken by and about Krishna, spoken by Krishna and about Krishna for the benefit of educating people in the human society on the real purpose of life. There are so many different purposes that we have concocted in this modern times. But here in these scriptures, the real purpose is to go back home, back to Godhead. That is why we're born. Atato Brahma Jignasya. And Krishna has set up a system of varnashram, of varnas and ashrams for that specific purpose. And there are 4 stages, as some of you may not know, or some of you do know. There are 4 ashrams that one should be trained in for spiritual advancement: brahmachari, grihasta, vanaprastha, and sannyas. These are the different ashrams, spiritual ashrams, that are part of the process of devotional practice. So the brahmachari, he practices celibacy. We're born into ignorance. And the parents, traditionally they would send the brahmachari to the ashram of the guru, of the spiritual master, to train him up. And that would last till, I believe, the age of 16. Yaśodā, you might be able to correct me. So a period of time where you would go through practicing celibacy strictly and be trained in that system of celibacy. And you would serve the spiritual master throughout that period humbly and receive knowledge from him to understand what life was, not go to a regular school like we have in the Western world. Prabhupada called these schools slaughterhouses. Why would he say that? It's a slaughterhouse. Because these people are not trained in preparing for death. They're prepared for earning money and developing material positioning in the society. It was quite a shock for us when Prabhupada came into our lives back in the 70s. I was at the University of Guelph, and it was quite interesting to see that Prabhupada was introducing a whole different direction of purpose for us, outside of being trained to get a job so that you can survive in this world comfortably. So we unfortunately never were raised as brahmacharis. I don't know. I think Brahm Raghava, at an early age, he went to the school in Vrindavan with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu when he was the headmaster to be trained up. And Prabhupada was there as the guru, the school of spiritual knowledge. Human life is for spiritual emancipation, not material prosperity. This is an illusion. Even if you think about the other ashrams, when you look at them, the brahmachari ashram, you're trained up on the principles of spiritual life, how to practice renunciation, not attachment. Then you enter into grihasta life, which is more or less a life of renunciation as well. There are specific rules and regulations guiding the grihasta ashram, but ultimately Prabhupada gave the example at 50 of leaving family life. Some people think, oh, how's that possible for me to ever conceive of leaving family life? Of course, Krishna sometimes he makes that arrangement for the devotee, even though the devotee may not want it. I'm going to read a section from a quote from Prabhupada in a lecture. It was in, maybe Vinkat can find it. It was on Guru Purnima lecture, March 5th, 1969 in Hawaii. The Guru Purnima lecture, March 5th, 1969 in Hawaii. So Prabhupada says, Prabhupada, yes, you can request him, and he sometimes forces. He puts you in such circumstances that you have no other way than to surrender to Krishna. Yes, this is special favor. That is special favor. Yes, my spiritual master wanted me to preach, but I did not like it. But he forced me. Yes, that is my practical experience. I had no desire to accept the sannyas order and preach, but my spiritual master wanted it. I'm not very much inclined, but he forced me. That is also done. That is special favor. When he forced me at this time, I thought, what is this? Am I committing some mistake? Or what is that? I was puzzled. But a little after, I could understand that this is the greatest favor shown to me. So when Krishna forces somebody to surrender, that is a great favor, forces him by circumstance. But generally, he does not do so. But he does so to a person who is very sincere to Krishna's service. But at the same time, he's got slight desire for material enjoyment. The foolish person does not know that material facility will never make him happy. And so he is sincerely seeking my favor. So he is foolish. Therefore, whatever resource, little resource he has got for material enjoyment, break it. Then he will have no other alternative than to surrender unto me. Krishna says, if I do somebody special favor, then I make him poverty-stricken. I take away all his means of sense enjoyment. This is stated in the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, because here in this material world, everyone is trying to be happy by earning more money, by business, by service, by this way or that. But in special case, Krishna makes his business or service unsuccessful. That happened to Prabhupada with his business. Do you like that? He laughs. At that time, he has no other alternative than to surrender to Krishna. But sometimes we are unsuccessful in our business attempt or earning attempt. We become sorry that, oh, Krishna is so cruel upon me that I could not trust in this. But that is his favor, special favor. You should understand like that. And this is from the Veda base on Prabhupada speaking. So very profound how sometimes we're put in situations of difficulty as a blessing. Like in the case of Mahārāja Parīkṣit, he was cursed to die in 7 days. Did he reject the curse? No, he accepted it as mercy, as blessing. And he took the opportunity to renounce everything and focus his attention wholly solely on hearing about the pastimes of Lord Krishna. And I'll finish off here. I was listening to a lecture the other day, Prabhupada was saying, and all of you, he was thanking everybody for their service. He said, oh, I'm so appreciative that you've surrendered your lives, all you Western men and boys, men and women, for my mission. And that's fine. And don't worry about it, because you may die soon, but everything will be okay. Because death is for sure. And the proper use of this human form of life is the service of the spiritual master. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please further.
Very important point that you've raised there. I wanted to read a short section from our compilation called The Unique Historical Position of His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupāda, Acharya for the Golden Age. This is from a lecture in Bombay on April 6, 1971, a lecture in Bombay, India, on April 6, 1971. Prabhupada explains the position of an advanced devotee preaching Krishna consciousness. Namo Mahabhadanyaya. So there is a program of Krishna. Sometimes he comes himself. Sometimes he comes as a devotee. Sometimes he leaves behind him instructions like Bhagavad Gita. And sometimes he authorizes somebody to preach this cult. Of course, anyone who is a sincere devotee is authorized. This is an indirect reference by Prabhupada himself to his preaching mission. Another very important point by Prabhupada is from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, texts 14 and 15. Chaitanya Charitamrita, Madhya Lila, chapter 22, texts 14 and 15. Prabhupada explains the difference between Nitya Baddhas and Nitya Siddhas. The Nitya Baddhas are always conditioned by the external energy, and the Nitya Muktas never come in contact with the external energy. Sometimes an ever-liberated personal associate of the Supreme Personality of Godhead descends into this universe just as the Lord descends. Although working for the liberation of conditioned souls, the messenger of the Supreme Lord remains untouched by the material energy. Now, somebody may ask, why are we reading this? Now, it's very important for us to understand, as part of our continuing spiritual practice and education, to understand the exalted position of a Nitya Siddha, an eternally liberated soul who comes from the spiritual world to preach the message of Lord Chaitanya, like Śrīla Prabhupāda's position. This is very important. Another very important point is a letter given on June 6, 1969. Prabhupada explains, regarding the first question in your letter, but how do we know of the spiritual abode, since once going there, no one returns? You should know that the great liberated souls and incarnations who appear from time to time in this material world are not actually coming back, because they are never subject to material contamination or the laws of material nature. For the purpose of delivering the fallen living entities, they come here temporarily and then go back when their business is finished. And this is all under the direct order of the Lord. So the appearance of the Lord or the great liberated souls in the material world, is different from the appearance of the contaminated living entity who is forced to take birth in the material world due to his desire to lord it over the world. In your second question, you ask if we will remember the earth when in Vrindavan, and the answer is certainly. When Narada Muni was talking to Vyasadeva, as you may have read in first volume of our Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, he was in a spiritual body, but he remembered his previous life and explained it to Vyasadeva. In the material life, there is forgetfulness, but in spiritual life, there is no forgetfulness. I hope this will sufficiently answer these questions for you. So just reading these few points, because these are very important points to illustrate the difference between a conditioned soul or a sadhaka who is gradually progressing in spiritual life and eternally liberated souls like Śrīla Prabhupāda, Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Rasa Thakur, and others. Hare Krishna.
Yes, Dharma Bhavana in Dallas, Texas. Maybe you could share some insights for us.
Okay, thank you. Let's see. Are we there now?
Yes,
Yeah,
very
Krishna,
good.
thank you.
Thank you.
I was thinking how our class today was very reassuring, because sometimes we meet somebody who we're trying to explain to them the universe, the spiritual world, and they may say, well, I like to go by logic and reason. And we could explain to such a person that death is assured for everyone. We have a tendency towards being prideful in our advancement of our civilization. But due to animal killing and all kinds of killing, that there will be great wars and suffering. And we may say to ourselves, but what happened to all this protection I had from my advanced material civilization? So if we are falsely brought up in this by the media and education, we may buy so many products and services for happiness. The Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam is really giving us the real meaning of life, just like we spoke about Parīkṣit Mahārāja. He had such a great kingdom, and he was forced to give it up, but he also voluntarily gave it up and fasted and heard Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. So it may seem very simplistic, but at the same time, this is really why we want to do this reading. It kind of helps us reassure ourselves and convince ourselves of the value of Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam and the limited value of all the material so-called advancement we see around us. Thank you, Haribo.
That's true. And, most people don't want to look at death as a reality. They hide from it like the ostrich puts his head in the sand and pretends it won't happen. This is the most amazing thing as described in Bhagavatam. Your father has died, your mother has died, your sister has died, your brother has died, your friends are dying. People are dying around us at every moment. All our celebrities are dying. And then we think egotistically, oh, I won't die. This is foolishness. And the Bhagavatam is reminding us all, and the Bhagavad Gita is reminding all of us what the real purpose of life is. And we have Jonas Priya in Hawaii with us this morning. He's early in the morning there. Maybe you could share your thoughts, brother, from Hawaii, Jonas Priya.
Hare Krishna, glories to Śrīla Prabhupāda. Yes, very interesting class. I was thinking how there's, sometimes we talk about doctors, thinking how there's people that fake to be doctors. And actually they open practices. They get busted all the time. And I was just thinking of how these 11 people, they say they're gurus on their own when they're not, and they're cheating everybody the same way. And the people actually think that they're gurus, just like the people think like the fake doctor is a fake doctor. So what happens when we go to a fake doctor? Nothing. We'll probably get sicker and lose our money. So this is what happens with somebody that pretends to be a guru when he's actually not qualified by any means. So people are simply being cheated by the cheaters, and Prabhupada, like Yasoda-nanda says all the time, we don't criticize anybody. We simply pointing out that there's cheaters, and one has to be aware of these cheaters. And what was Prabhupada's treatment for cheaters? He came on the face with booth. He said this many times. These cheaters, there are other cheating people, and Prabhupada always was very against them. I remember in the early 70s, there was this Guru Mahārāja, and he came to Vancouver, and he had a rasa dance.
Mm-hmm.
So the devotees told Prabhupada about this rasa dance, and Prabhupada says, you go meet him and kick him on the face with booth, because that's the only way to deal with these rascals. So we know that we could not go kicking people on the face with booth, but we kick them by denouncing them, by pointing out their cheating propensity. And it's amazing how it doesn't matter how far out or how crooked not only ISKCON gurus, but any preacher, no matter how weird their philosophy is, there always gonna be some innocent people that fall for it. So that's our mission, is to awaken people and say, hey, there is truth. There's somebody who could really guide you. Why? Because he has seen the truth, and somebody that is liberated could actually liberate somebody. But some of these other people that pretend to be liberated, yeah, they could take you somewhere. They could take you to hell. That's the only place they could take you. Hare Krishna.
Yes, that's why we stress here to hear from the original unedited books of Śrīla Prabhupāda, because Prabhupada is still present in his Vani incarnation, the sound incarnation of the spiritual master, which is unadulterated by mental speculation and material motivation. And when this comes in, then the philosophy is changed. Prabhupada referred to it as Janas Priya as the guru business. The guru business. Prabhupada built a very big mission. It's actually $1 billion movement now. Think about it. When we bought the Toronto Temple, we paid $450,000 for the building. Now that was in 1976, actually in 1975, and then we closed it in 76. So we paid $450,000 for this magnificent church. Now it's worth $30 to $40 million. The Vancouver Temple, which was in the outskirts of Vancouver, they paid a very little amount of money for it. It's about a few acres of land in Burnaby, BC. It's worth tens of millions of dollars now, not a few dollars. So, like that, all throughout the world, these properties were purchased in the early years by the sincere efforts of Prabhupada's disciples. And then they were taken over by the current regime, and they may arbitrarily sell a property, take tens of millions of dollars out of the asset, and disperse it whatever way they want. Who knows what's going on? It's a very covered environment there, and misleading innocent people in many different ways, which we won't discuss right now. But I wanted Vijaya Pandit in Italy, if he could maybe comment a bit on today's verse for our appreciation. Vijaya Pandit in Italy. Hope I didn't put you on the spot, but go ahead, please.
Very good. Well, I was quite a long time not with all of you because of I went to the marathon, the book distribution here in Italy, and so I couldn't follow every Saturday and Sunday the programs because I was out distributing books. And so, not for saying something with this, just I would like to listen first, all of you, about the real movement of Śrīla Prabhupada before I start to talk. Because I was so-called ISKCON till 3-4 years ago. So can you imagine what I have in my head? All this confusion of this ISKCON. I mean, now I have quite a good view after I met Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu some years ago. So I like to listen. I like to listen, all of you. Maybe later in the next years, I will tell something. I will say something.
Okay, fair enough.
Go on like this.
One thing, Prabhu, remember, whenever a person is listening, that's equal to the speaker. The speaker and the listener are equal. It's a question of different functions. And we really appreciate your association. Now, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I see that we have our friend in Florida who always has an interesting question, Nilesh Dalal, for you. Nilesh, maybe, is he on the move again?
Yes.
The man in motion. Haribol Prabhu, go ahead. Go ahead,
Hare
please.
Krishna, Prabhu.
Yeah.
So one thing to Vijay Prabhu is that what's going on in your head, especially the second generation, at least those who joined ISKCON because of Prabhupada, and then when they discovered this whole thing about the fake gurus, same situation goes in our head. Our head is about to explode. What's going on? What is right? What is wrong? All this confusion occurs. So been there, done that. Just stick on, listen to the senior devotees like Vishwakarma Prabhu and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and things will clarify. Read the original books. That's the most important thing. Read them, reread them, and things will become clearer. Things will become crystal clear for you, and then you will know your position very clearly. I bring greetings from Madhua Prabhu, who has been with us since yesterday. Today he has to go to meet some devotees in Miami. He sends his regards to you and Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. So a lot of Parasparam Bodhayanta was going on between me and him over the weekend, over yesterday evening. So my question to Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu was, he talks about Nitya Baddha and Nitya Mukta Jivas. Of course, Prabhupada is the Nitya Mukta Jiva. How do we, as an ordinary neophyte devotee, look at the poisoning issue of Śrīla Prabhupada from this Nitya Mukta and Nitya Baddha Jiva perspective?
Well, this particular class, we've never really gotten into the discussion of this particular issue. For one thing, we're not professional investigators or criminal investigators. We are basically attempting devotees or aspiring devotees discussing the Bhagavatam, discussing Bhagavad Gita. So these issues, whether or not Prabhupada was poisoned or not poisoned, is best left to many devotees who basically have undertaken the task of analyzing many statements of Śrīla Prabhupada in 1977, accumulating various evidences, audio evidence and analysis of Prabhupada's hair and different things, as far as trying to understand the circumstances under which Prabhupada passed. We should understand that everything like that happens by the plan of the Lord, by the arrangement of Krishna. It's not that we should be thinking, oh, somebody murdered Prabhupada, somebody poisoned Prabhupada. No. No one can do anything to a pure devotee without the sanction of Krishna. Everything is under the control of Krishna. Just like in the Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada explains that not a blade of grass moves without the will of the Supreme. Because we see when we study carefully, for example, the life of the Pandavas, they were devotees of Krishna, but they were subjected to so many tribulations and difficulties. Prahlad Mahārāja was a great devotee. He was subjected to so much harassment and persecution from his father. Haridas Thakur was subjected to so much persecution from local religionists or pseudo-religionists. So we see in the history of the world there have been so many great devotees who've been harassed. For example, Ramanujacharya, they attempted to poison him. Some envious persons attempted to poison him. So there are so many instances in the history of Vaishnavism where there has been harassment of devotees. That is something that is there. We cannot stop that. So the best way to understand these things, as you mentioned, is to carefully and systematically study the literatures that Prabhupada has given, the conversations that Prabhupada has given. Then everything becomes very clear. It is not like that we're going to go into every detail. I mean, there are websites dedicated to this. There are books that have been written about it, and people can inform themselves, can read. But my point is, this particular class that we're conducting is not focused on this issue. What we're focusing on is understanding the position of a Nitya Siddha like Śrīla Prabhupāda and Bhaktivedanta Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and our position as sadhakas, practitioners of Bhakti Yoga, and how we can progress in spiritual life by associating with Śrīla Prabhupāda. That is basically all I can say today about this. Hare Krishna.
Your microphone, Nilesh?
Yes, I'm trying to get that. I don't know why it suddenly froze on me.
It's okay.
Give me 1 second.
It's
Yes,
working.
I'm back. Yeah, okay. So the question comes is because when you raise this question on those who are defending themselves, they say that, oh, Prabhupada is Nitya Mukta. Nobody can poison him. Nobody can do anything harm to him, you know. And of course, just like how you said that Krishna protects them. So this issue is a non-issue kind of a thing. That is why they kind of throw it under the rug. And when we were discussing with other devotees, they said that yes, even Jesus Christ was crucified. There were Haridas Thakur was flogged in so many of the marketplaces. So people were subjected to these kinds of tribulations from non-devotees. That does not still make it that they are not Nitya Mukta. So that is why I wanted to bring it, is because the opposing party always throws it under the bus saying, oh, he's Nitya Mukta, nobody can do anything to him.
So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was also Nitya Mukta. He was also an eternal liberated soul. But Prabhupada told the story how some caste Brahmins in Navadvip tried to bribe the police 25,000 rupees to have him assassinated. So it doesn't mean that even if one is a Nitya Mukta, that there will not be envious people in the material world that will try to harm people. Why does Prabhupada say, for example, in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that there are many envious persons in the Krishna Consciousness movement? Why does Prabhupada say, for example, in the Bhagavatam in the 9th canto, that there are many karmis in the dress of devotees, and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is very expert to detect them? I'm paraphrasing. So one cannot be naive or simplistic when we analyze these things. I keep giving the example that these kinds of positions, it's like a high school student who, because in high school they make you study a little anatomy, a little biology, and now he's thinking he wants to go to the hospital and perform brain surgery. Oh, You've taken one course of anatomy and you want to go perform brain surgery. It doesn't work like that. So those devotees that are making these very naive assumptions and naive conclusions means they've not studied Prabhupada's books very carefully. Yes, it's true. Krishna always protects his devotees. That's true, but there are also the other factor, that there are many envious persons who try to harm a pure devotee. That is there from history. So we have to look at all these positions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, Haribo. Thank you, everyone. We've come to the end of the program, and we appreciate your attendance. We had a really nice turnout. And by the way, everyone, we are posting these classes on Hare Krishna Society YouTube page, and we have almost 200 classes on that medium. So if you want to go back, it's quite interesting. We're getting about 300 to 400 views within 2 or 3 weeks. And, you know, they will expand in due course. And we're producing these for the future generations of people that take up Krishna consciousness and want to know the reality of the legacy of Śrīla Prabhupada by our reading the diaries, and they want to know the history. It's actually, Nilesh, a very interesting pastime, if we could use the term. Prabhupada's pastimes while he was with us, actually even before he came to the West, then while he was personally present with us, and just see all of the things that have gone on since he's left. Quite fascinating, all these different groups that have emerged and all these different philosophies and points of view and opinions that are emerging from all different so-called spiritual authorities. So keep a cool head, everyone. Just stay fixed in a simple program that we have of chanting arounds, offering your food, attend the classes, and preach to other people about Krishna consciousness and who Prabhupada is. Yes, here we have the website. You can go there. There's over 200 videos. And actually, go ahead. There's
just
two.
So that you know, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
You said that there's so many societies. Just in Miami, I just learned yesterday, because we were at a certain program with Madhua Prabhu, that
Yes.
there is a ISKCON Miami, there's an ISKCON Outreach Miami, and then there is this Gaudiya Vedanta Institute Outreach in Miami.
There you go.
All three of them. So, and everybody is trying to have their own agenda and keeping Prabhupada on the side, but the actual common denomination in all the three of them, including, if you were to say the fourth one, which people like us who are Prabhupada Nugas, the common denomination is Śrīla Prabhupada.
Logical. You know, Prabhupada's at the center. The difference is their motive. What is their motive? And that you have to study carefully. So we'll carry on with the programs, and thank you very much, everyone, again, for your attendance at the classes. Keep going. Don't stop. Remember, if you chant 16 rounds a day for 365 days a year, that'll be 10,052,000 names minimum for 1 year, 2023. So success comes by preparation. You prepare by chanting every day, by studying every day, by learning the philosophy, hearing the lectures, practicing the principles, and then Krishna, by his mercy and the mercy of Guru, will reveal the truth to you, and then you'll feel happy. All glories to Śrīla Prabhupada. Let's move forward with the chanting of Hare Krishna. Please join in. And we'll look forward to seeing you on Wednesday evening, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in Canada and the U.S. for Chaitanya Charitamrita reading and discussion. Hopefully you'll get your invitation in your email box. Hare Krishna.
Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktivedanta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpa tarubhyascha
Sa
kripa sindubhya eva cha
Vacha
patitanam
Patitanam
pavanebhyo
Pavanebhyo
Vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Thanks everybody for participating. Next weekend we will have our regular morning programs, and on Sunday morning, on the 14th of January, we'll have a special celebration for the disappearance day of Jiva Goswami Prabhupada from Sacramento, California, the ashram of Hare Krishna Society with Bhakti Ram Prabhu. Hare Krishna. And on the 19th of January, the Friday at 5:30 p.m., we're having a special event with devotees in Tokyo, Japan. We'll be discussing, this will be a focused special event discussing what is the body, what is the soul, how does the body goes from one point to another. And we will be discussing also the issues of what is the disciplic succession, what does it mean, and how do we connect with the disciplic succession. And with these devotees in Japan, we will also be discussing a few of the points we discussed today about Vedic deities and Japanese deities to show the similarities between Vedic culture and very ancient Japanese culture. So we hope that everybody is enjoying this and appreciating the programs. If you have any suggestions for us, please do so. Send us an email or contact Venkat Bhatta Prabhu by email and let us know your concern or suggestions. Hare Krishna.
Hare Bol.